Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Valpo Football Weekly, presented by our friends at Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute. Brandon Vickery with you. Glad to be joined by the head coach of the Valpo football program, Landon Fox, as we look back at Saturday's homecoming game against Drake. We'll look ahead to the upcoming game against Stetson, but let's start with Saturday. And I know now you've had a chance to look back at the film, and quite simply, what stood out to you most about what you need to do better going forward?
Yeah, it was, I stated it after the game, and I feel no differently now. It's just consistency, consistency in everything that we do. That could come from the play on the field to practice to meetings to coaching staff, but consistent. We have to be consistent on a day in and day out basis, which will help us on game day. Is Drake a good football team? Yes. But in order to be good football teams, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent for a long period of time, 60 minutes is what it's going to take. And you just saw, there was just flashes. And so when you have that, it's going to be hard to beat good teams.
Yeah, you talked about it. Drake has one of the longest league winning streaks nationally. They were undefeated in the league a year ago. What stands out to you about their program and how they've had such success?
Yeah, what they do a really good job of is, they're playing with a lot of older guys. If you look at their roster, 6 year, 5th year, it's a team that's been together now for, well, obviously 5 or 6 years, but they've been playing for consistently for 3 years. And so the ability to be comfortable within a scheme, to play fast, that's what they do a really nice job of is just, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do and we've done it for a long period of time, which leads to the consistency that we're talking about.
You talked after the game about Hayden Bedell, and it was kind of, even amongst a tough day, kind of a cool moment to see him have his moment. What can you say for this audience about the backstory of his time with your program and what it's been like to see him stick with it?
Yeah, I said this, after the game, and him sitting beside me, and obviously we pick people that have typically have a big part of the game in those moments, and to have a guy like him who he comes in as a freshman, works, where does he fit? He's not, not playing. Same thing as a sophomore. And then as a junior, he just, hey, what can I do to get on the field? What can I do to get on the field? And ultimately ends up playing on some special teams and, just one really. But I always said this as a head coach of like, that was his Super Bowl. Like that one play that he went in was his Super Bowl. Like I'll do whatever I can to be successful on that one play, and that was kick return. And so he gets in the kick return, then he goes to punt and builds on it. And you see the consistency that we're talking about from special teams that then says, "Hey, you can leads into defense," and you're just very proud, appreciative of a guy who comes into a program and works day in and day out to get to where he's at. And again, I said this after, but that's not 1 year. That's not 2 years. It was 3 years or 2.5 years before that, he actually got rewarded in terms of playing time. And so that ability to stick with it really resonates with me and hopefully, our players as well.
Wanted to ask you about Anye Wosisi as well. You had been without him the previous week. He makes an impact, blocked a field goal in this one. Just tell me about bringing him into your program prior to last season and what stands out to you about him on the football field.
Yeah, Onye, very, very talented young man, and really in all facets, very likable, does, school wise, does good, nice job academically to football. So very, very talented. And so it's, I think it's our job to then push him to reach his full potential because his ceiling is very high. And so we want to push and push and push to, maximize that talent that he does have. And he's a guy that is willing to do it. He'll listen to what you have to say, and hey, he's coachable, and to try to do exactly what you want. And with being very talented has allowed him to be very productive on the field.
Before we talk about Stetson, just let's talk about what this week looks like for your team. You talked about improving consistency. What are the steps toward that? What's your message to the guys going into the week of practice?
Yeah, details, Brandon. That's it. It's all about details, details, and the fact that we're putting players in the right position as a coaching staff, and then details of the players doing their part. And so that means when you come into a meeting, you have a pen, you have a notebook. You're paying attention, you're writing little things down that are going to make the difference in the game because that's what it takes in order to beat good teams, and to be consistent on a week in and week out. And I think right now we've been kind of up and down, and so the small details is what really matters because how you do it, what they say, how you do anything is how you do everything, and to me that's what we got to really focus on, of making sure that we're consistent in daily, whatever it may be, but we have to be consistent in what we're doing.
This will be your first game at Stetson here as Valpo head coach. What stands out to you about the Hatters, and what do you have to do against them to be successful on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, again, with them, they always provide you with challenges athletically. You know, they have very good athletes on their team. Schematically, defense, they're going to bring a bunch of different pressure, which we haven't handled well this year. So different fronts, different pressures. Offensively, they've done a good job getting the ball into playmakers' hands, the athletes that we're talking about, and obviously, anytime in a special teams game, with good athletes in the return game, you see that they've had some good things happen there. So. I think for us, it's about, you have to travel well. You're going down there. It's a longer trip, and it's a business trip. We talk about, hey, it's a destination. Well, it's not a vacation destination. This is a trip where we're going to try to going to win a football game, and we need to have that mindset as we go through the whole week. And our preparation will dictate what happens on Saturday.
There he is, the head coach of the Valpo football program, Landon Fox. The game kicks off at noon Central Time. You can watch it on ESPN Plus between Valpo and Stetson. We'll talk to you again next week on Valpo Football Weekly, presented by Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute.